everyone in the world got trapped in a doomsday survival game. Inside the game, everyone scrambled like crazy to pick a superpower. I was the only one who chose money that would never run out. Everyone else laughed at me. They said paper money would be worthless once the world ended. But these people didn't understand. Zombies were never really the threat. Living people with superpowers were the most terrifying thing of all. When the system's voice started ringing out, me and 300 other players were instantly thrown into the game. The system announced that all the players were actually already dead in the real world. To get a chance to live again, we had to survive to the very end of this doomsday game. Right after that, it was time to choose our starting item. I glanced over the shelves of items. Most of them were all kinds of superpowers. Other players fought like maniacs to grab them. I went straight to the last page of the list. At the bottom, I saw a piece of golden cloth. It read, "Unlimited wealth." Without thinking twice, I took the golden cloth. Wang Teng, the class president who'd entered with me, chose mind control. Seeing me pick the golden cloth, he couldn't help but start mocking me. "Mark, you're way too obsessed with money. It's basically the end of the world. What good is money now?" I hadn't even had a chance to explain before he turned to look at Liu Ryuan, the class flower. She had the power to make people fall in love with her. "I can make every human fall in love with me. Even zombies will feel something for me. With true love as my shield, there's no way I'll die." Once everyone had grabbed their items, the system chimed again, giving everyone 1 year to train their superpowers. Prepare yourselves well before the war. Doomsday mode would officially begin after 1 year. In this game, in the end, there could only be one winner. Only the one who survived to the very last would get to take home the grand prize. After hearing this rule, everyone's expression changed instantly. Those who had just agreed to form alliances now eyed each other with suspicion. In this survival game, there was no such thing as friends. Everyone was an enemy. I didn't waste a single second. I left right away and began carrying out my survival plan. I searched the world map and found a remote island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It wasn't on any earthquake fault line, nor in the path of major storms. The island had natural flat ground, perfect for building an airport, and was ringed by green mountains that would serve as natural cover. I spent 10 billion buying this small island and named it Wailai Island, officially claiming it as my own. I was developing tourism. I bought 10 giant cruise ships all at once and signed construction contracts with NPCs, shipping all the construction vehicles and building materials to the island. Every contract I signed with the NPC executives was a non-disclosure agreement. They didn't even know where Wailai Island actually was. Once the cruise ships arrived at Wailai Island, the workers began building a simple airport. I quickly bought 100 chartered planes to fly construction workers in from all over. The workers labored around the clock. To keep the future island from being detected, I had already bought jamming equipment beforehand and confiscated the workers' phones. 10 heavily fortified strongholds were built on the island, all using the highest grade materials, able to withstand a magnitude 12 earthquake. The exteriors of the strongholds were all camouflaged satellites in the sky, couldn't pick them up at all. But all of this was really just a smokescreen I'd set up. The real doomsday stronghold was underground. The underground bunker could withstand a nuclear strike and a biochemical attack. Even if zombies could dig, they'd never be able to break through this 5-meter-thick steel wall. The surface strongholds had a secret passage leading straight down to the underground bunker, but the secret tunnel was extremely narrow. Only one person could pass through at a time. Inside, it was like a maze. Even with luck, even if you found the right pass, getting through the main door still didn't mean you could avoid the traps along the way. If one secret tunnel was destroyed, I could still use another tunnel to get back to the surface. In the doomsday world, energy was everything. To solve the power supply problem, I installed wind turbines on the island, along with tidal and nuclear power. Water was also easy to solve. I installed rainwater collectors as well as a seawater desalination system. I even dug in groundwater purification equipment that could treat contaminated post-apocalyptic water until it was safe to drink directly. There were also instant high-temperature toxin destroyers, instant low-temperature toxin destroyers, and toxin destroyers using spectral light and medication. There was a dedicated waste treatment system to handle the dirty water in the underground bunker. In case of flooding, all the walls had been waterproofed, and the blast doors sealed tightly shut. The underground drainage system was also extremely robust. I had installed several sets of air purification systems to guarantee the air inside the underground shelter would always be sufficient and clean. On top of that, I stockpiled 100,000 oxygen tanks, reserved only for emergencies inside the underground shelter. I built 12 separate storage bays. If one or two were damaged, the others could still take over. Each storage bay had its own specific purpose. 3 of the storage bays used the latest automated farming systems, able to grow vegetables, raise fish, and even raise chickens. 2 storage bays held enough food, medicine, and water to last me 10 years. When the NPCs started to grow suspicious of my project, I immediately paid them off to keep their mouths shut. After that, I went to a certain beautiful country to buy heavy weapons, including mobile combat robots and cleaning robots. Because I'd handed out so much money, I also went down some darker channels and got my hands on 2 nuclear bombs. In a certain bay, I also hid a nuclear submarine, along with an aircraft. The underground bunker had a tunnel leading straight to a station. To keep players with special abilities from reaching the island, I had people build a large number of artificial reefs around the island. Any large ship that approached would run aground and sink. Closer in, I had an electrified fence pulled up encircling the entire island. Along the coastline, I planted underwater bombs. I also set up radar that could detect anything that dared approach the little island, making it easy for me to take it out in time. I built a massive aerial power grid to keep virus-carrying birds from landing on the island. In just that 1 year, all the island's defenses were complete. Of course, to fool my enemies, I also went on a very public world tour elsewhere, so the other players wouldn't get suspicious. All those other shelters were actually just decoys. I could fly a plane without ever needing to refuel and escape directly whenever I wanted. After sending off the last group of NPCs, the entire island now had only me left on it. I spent money buying a space exploration technology company, gathering over 6,000 satellites in orbit just to make sure my network would never go down. Over that year, I also quietly bought stakes in airlines and shipping companies around the world. In the final week, I ordered the destruction of all their planes and ships. Everyone in the world knew. Some billionaire had destroyed long-distance transportation. The NPCs thought the billionaire had lost his mind. Only the players knew this global billionaire was also one of their competitors. A small window popped up in the players' world chat. Wang Teng asked me, "Mark, that global billionaire is you, isn't it?" He was the only one who had seen me pick unlimited wealth, but I paid him no attention at all. A week later, Doomsday truly arrived. The players who had spent the year training their superpowers were ready to act. The names and numbers of all 300 players appeared on screen. I was number 99. Wang Teng was number 100. Liu Ryuan was number 101. Attention! The apocalypse has begun. This game will continue until only one player remains. No one expected the end of the world to begin with heavy rain pouring down across the entire planet. The relentless downpour immediately triggered massive flooding. Future Island, though also hit by the rain, was small enough that, after 2 days, the clouds finally cleared. I hadn't even had time to hide in the underground shelter. Every special ability user out there was completely lost. When they'd arrived in this world, they had no money either. That year, they'd had to train their abilities while also figuring out how to earn a living. No need to say how hard that was. What little they'd managed to stockpile was minimal. Only a handful of players used their abilities for evil. Some managed to seize a villa and build a shelter in its basement. But as it turned out, the first flood submerged that basement. All their supplies were washed away, the whole villa swallowed by the flood. Shelters players had built in underground garages were also flooded. Only shelters on upper floors remained safe for the time being, but the rain never let up. The already scarce resources of the players underground gradually ran out, and everyone began to panic. Meanwhile, I sat snacking while watching a livestream. The streamer was hiding behind a curtain, secretly broadcasting the scene in the building across the way. A player was using fire to seize resources. Guys, this isn't a special effect, and it's not cosplay. This is really someone with a superpower. He used to be a security guard at our residential compound. Now he's using fire to burn through doors. This was already the 10th time he'd robbed someone. In the live stream, the comments flooded the screen. So there really are people with superpowers. Does that mean Doomsday is really coming? Be careful, streamer. Once he's done robbing the building across from you, he'll come for yours next. The fire had stabilized. A fire-wielding player drew the attention of the NPCs. A group of special police arrived by rescue boat at the residential compound and surrounded the building with weapons. The streamer was so excited his hands were shaking. Guys, this is the first time I've ever seen a real gunfight. The security guard's fire was too fierce. In an instant, he melted through a large steel door. The special police forced their way into the building. Gunfire rang out fiercely. Suddenly, a figure went flying out from an upper floor and fell straight into the floodwater below. Not long after, I saw a player's name on the game screen turn gray. That meant the player had died. Right then, in the chat window, Wang Teng came looking for me again. "Mark, let's form an alliance. Look, we're old classmates, same number range. Let's team up, we'll definitely make it to the end." He kept sending me video call requests over and over. I ignored every one of them. Team up with him? The moment only the two of us were left, he'd use mind control to kill me and become the sole winner. Did he think that little of my intelligence, or did he think that highly of his own? Water and power were cut off. Food supplies also ran short. 3 months of flooding had crushed the NPCs' hope. Eventually, some of them couldn't take it anymore and started taking risks, vandalizing, stealing, and setting fires everywhere. Players got swept up in it too, searching for any sliver of hope. But superpowers couldn't stay hidden forever. It shook the upper class. The elites quickly issued arrest warrants for anyone with special abilities, capturing them and sending them to research institutions. Within a month, 30 players had already been marked dead on the public leaderboard. All at once, the players felt like startled birds. Everyone felt under threat. Meanwhile, I lived as if I weren't even part of the same world, occasionally checking on how my vegetables were growing, playing games in my mansion, swimming in my pool. Future Island really was like a paradise cut off from the rest of the world, letting me live in total comfort. But those good days didn't last. In the end, someone sold me out. In the world's public chat, someone sent an anonymous message. Player number 99 is the richest person in the world. Before Doomsday hit, he must have built plenty of shelters. If we can just find player 99, everyone can survive. The once quiet world chat suddenly exploded with activity. Player number 99 appeared to speak. You're out here enjoying yourself while the hundreds of us suffer. How cruel, how vile. That's right, a player like that has to be eliminated. Find 99 and we all survive. Come on, everyone, let's storm him. All the players grew furious, wanting to end this immediately, wanting to skin me alive. I just wanted to live in peace. You're the ones who forced me to reveal my name. I replied on the public screen. Everyone, calm down, I am player 99. You want shelter? I can give it to you. But I only have them in the beautiful country and the Han country. I've built shelters in 4 locations, the beautiful country, the Han country, and the kangaroo country, and each shelter can hold a maximum of 20 people. As I spoke, I marked 4 points on the world map. But there are over 200 of you, there's no way you'll all fit, but I'll give you the shelter codes. First come, first served, just don't ever come hunting for me. The moment I typed out the codes, every player went wild. As long as they could reach a shelter fast enough, they could survive the flood. Within a single night, some players had already made it to a shelter. Most of them had abilities that let them move quickly. The shelters were built on high ground, safe from the floodwaters. When they opened the shelter doors and stepped inside, it felt like entering paradise. After all, my 4 shelters had been built extravagantly, fully equipped with everything, refrigerators stocked full of frozen food. Player 58 proudly began live streaming on the world screen, amazed that the shelter had been built so well. I can't believe how well built this shelter is. This is the life. Inside, they were eating steak and lamb shanks, drinking red wine, a table piled with seafood and fine dishes. Player 58 said there were already 12 people inside the shelter, and they had all agreed to seal off the Han country shelter. Resources are limited, we don't need anyone else coming in. Other players were still on their way. Watching the live stream, they grew furious. Outside the shelter, more and more players kept arriving. Rather than drown in the flood or starve to death with no food, of course they had to seize this chance. The will to survive drove them to fight, but the players inside had already locked it. No matter how hard the outsiders pounded on the door and walls, not even their superpowers could budge that unyielding door. Just as the players inside were feeling smug, I suddenly appeared and said, "You said it holds 20 people, doesn't that mean there's still room for 8 more? I still have the override access code. Even if they've locked the door, I can still get in through the hidden passage inside. Under the southeastern wall, there's a carved stone, turn it slightly, and a hidden door will appear." The players outside rushed toward the hidden door like madmen. They turned the ancient carved stone, and sure enough, a hidden door appeared in the old wall. Players scrambled and shoved to get in, only 8 spots left. A girl who looked frail and had fallen behind, running too slowly, suddenly sprouted a mass of vines from her arms. She lashed out wildly at the people ahead of her, instantly knocking several players down. A player with blade summoning abilities quickly sliced through the vines beneath his feet, then struck with sharp wind, slashing the vine user's throat open. The first blade player reached the door's edge and forced in the access code. The great door swung open, and he charged in eagerly. Right after, another player used lightning to take down a bunch of others and became the second to make it through the door. As a third player approached the door, he was suddenly grabbed in a tight embrace from behind. The player lying on the ground wore a strange smile. Poison in his nails had scratched the man's leg. The poisoned player tried to stand and run for the door, but a steel arm burst through his back and out through his heart. One by one, players fell in front of the shelter door. The will to survive stripped away whatever restraint they had left. It turned out the superpowers the system had handed out weren't meant to fight zombies at all. They were meant to make the players slaughter each other. The players inside the shelter couldn't just sit still either. They all had fast movement abilities, but clearly their combined strength wasn't enough. If they didn't shut the giant door and let stronger players in, the blade player and the lightning player who'd just gotten in realized this too. They quickly formed an alliance and began facing down the players still outside. At that moment, the numbers on the public leaderboard climbed rapidly. The death count kept rising. Human nature is all interconnected. The other 3 shelters also erupted into fierce fighting. Through all my surveillance, I never once found a trace of Wang Teng. After all, how could he possibly make it to a shelter? And right on cue, Wang Teng sent me a message. "Mark, look, we may not be allies, but we can still cooperate well. The 2 of us were basically born to be partners. Have you got no shame? Who do you think exposed your identity if not me?" Don't get mad about it. If I hadn't given the crowd a little push, how else would so many players have died? You should be thanking me for thinning out your competition. While we were talking, the shelter had already filled up. The automatic door slammed shut. Outside the shelter, blood flowed freely. Those who hadn't made it in were still fighting their last fight. The players inside the shelter were throwing a party, with no idea what was waiting for them. I smiled a little. What was about to happen? I said to Wang Teng, "You're not in the shelter, what a shame." Then I pressed a button. In an instant, 1,000 tons of explosives buried inside the shelter detonated. The shockwave even wiped out the survivors still fighting outside the shelter door. After the explosion, the player count dropped by 116. Only 90 players remained alive. After a good while, Wang Teng finally sent me a message. "I underestimated you. Thanks for the help. Otherwise, it would have been really hard to get that many players gathered into one shelter. Across the whole world, they probably wouldn't have used planes. The players who made it to Future Island by boat are all gone now. I've been thinking about how to wipe these people out since a year ago. That shelter was their grave." News of the shelter explosion couldn't spread quickly through the media, so the other surviving players had no idea what had happened, but Wang Teng found out almost immediately. That showed he was watching everything from a distance. Just then, the system sent me a message. "Congratulations, you now have the highest kill count. You've earned a bonus reward." I couldn't help but laugh. See, doomsday always comes down to the law of the jungle in the end. 4 months later, the floodwaters slowly began to recede, revealing land that had been submerged. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the disaster was finally over. But they never expected the flood had brought a plague with it. Many of the NPCs who had died turned into zombies. Congratulations, 100 players have cleared the first level, the Doomsday Flood. Next up was level 2, the Doomsday Zombies. Their time had finally come to use their powers. As for me, number 99, I was apparently just waiting to be slaughtered. Round that time, Liu Ruan sent me a private message. "Mark, you don't have a superpower. In a world full of zombies, there's no way you'll survive. As long as you give me a bit of your supplies and tell me your location, I can come protect you." I slowly typed out a question mark. Don't underestimate my ability. I can survive right through the middle of a flood, all thanks to this power of mine. Of course, I already knew exactly how she'd survived. She'd used her love-inducing power to swindle supplies out of her neighbors. When the rescue workers arrived, she was the very first one they saved. Thinking about all this, I replied, "Sorry, I'm not interested in you. And knowing I'm the richest man alive, this clearly isn't a coincidence." The zombie virus broke out across every continent. But because I had already destroyed all the planes and ships beforehand, the transmission routes to the Pacific Island nations and Antarctica were cut off. Low-level zombies weren't hard to deal with, but the virus spread with terrifying speed. After repeated cycles of transmission, mutations began to appear, exactly as I'd predicted. Intelligent zombies and zombies with special abilities started quietly emerging. As long as a zombie ate the flesh of someone with a superpower, it could absorb that power. The players realized that without alliances, they'd die. They began forming alliances voluntarily, establishing bases to fight off the zombie attacks. But the bases didn't just have to fight zombies, they also had to fight each other, seizing resources and lives. Facing the zombie virus, I had to pull steel nets across the water to keep infected fish from swimming toward Future Island. I also set up an aerial power grid to keep birds from landing. The sunlight seemed a little dimmer than usual. Whenever it rained, I hid in the underground bunker. Only once the water had been tested by machine and confirmed non-toxic did I dare go back outside. This was the biggest impact the zombie virus had on me. The land-based networks had already collapsed. The NPCs could only send messages by radio. I had no need for such an outdated tool. My thousands of satellites in orbit let me keep watching the whole planet. Just as I'd guessed, birds would carry the virus, and it would fall onto vulnerable islands. The entire island instantly turned into a living hell. The number of players kept dropping one by one, this time down to 30. But right then, a mutated zombie bird happened to fly over Future Island's airspace and crash straight into the power grid, instantly turned to ash by the high voltage. But one feather slipped through, drifting down through a gap in the grid. Before it even reached the ground, a robotic dog sprayed a column of flame and reduced it to ash. That bird must have flown in from other islands in the Pacific. From that day on, more and more birds crossed the sky over Future Island every day, and the power grid became littered with bird corpses. The robot stayed busy nonstop, patrolling the whole island and burning bird carcasses with open flame, keeping the grid clear. If even Future Island was in this state, it showed just how dire things must be everywhere else. I stopped taking my daily walks along the beach. I moved firmly down into the underground bunker. That day happened to be New Year's, though no one in the world had any thought of celebrating, except me. As I ate my New Year's dinner and watched the last New Year's gala broadcast before Doomsday, I thought of the family I once had, and how now only I remained. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow in my heart. I had to go back. I had to become the sole winner. I took a photo of my New Year's dinner and sent it to Wang Teng. Within a minute, Wang Teng had posted my photo on the world's public screen. I could just imagine how furious the other players must have felt seeing it. Angry comments started pouring in. Day 99 going pretty well for someone, huh? Damn it, we can't even get a single mouthful of rice and he's got a whole table of food. I'd suggest you not get too cocky. I'll find you, and I will end you. I didn't care in the slightest, so go ahead and try to find me if you can. Closing the interface, I opened my computer and looked over the data I'd gathered on 30 players. I could never have guessed that long before Doomsday arrived, the world was already full of my spies. My mercenaries had precisely tracked down players scattered all across the world and had been observing them for a long time. I knew exactly what abilities and weaknesses every player had. Once the apocalypse hit, my mercenaries survived on the supplies I'd stockpiled beforehand, continuing to serve me, and in return I opened up new resources for them. Money could make anything happen. In this Doomsday world, resources were the most valuable currency of all. By now, the world had settled into 3 major powers. The first power was the military, holding a formidable, unshakable weapons arsenal, with Wang Teng relying on morale and taking command through his mind control. The second power was the zombies. A zombie king had already emerged among them, gaining his abilities by devouring powerful zombies and players. Beside the zombie king was Liu Ruan, who had become his beloved partner. The third power was the gang. Long before Doomsday struck, player number 128 had already infiltrated the most dangerous, most chaotic country in the world, using his superpower to seize control of a gang. Under number 128's leadership, the gang slowly grew stronger by preying on civilians. The remaining 26 players all depended on one of these 3 powers. Number 128 could control gravity with terrifying strength. In one-on-one combat, no player could match him. Yet the gang's power was actually the weakest of the 3. I tapped a pencil against number 128's icon on my screen. I'll make you my target. Right at that moment, the system's voice rang out again. Currently, 30 players remained alive. The game's difficulty was about to increase, entering level 3. The whole continent turned bitterly cold. Someone immediately couldn't hold back any longer. Doomsday had now lasted a year and 5 months. There was no food left anywhere, and with the freezing weather on top of it, everyone on the planet was going to die. Liu Ruan, half out of her mind, sent me a message. Only the zombies will survive on this whole planet, and I'll survive too. You're going to regret turning me down for the rest of your life. Along with the message, she sent a photo of herself with the zombie king. Seeing this, I let out a cold laugh. Fine then, I'll be the one to send the 2 of you straight to the afterlife. Extreme weather swept across the entire planet. Even my tropical island wasn't spared. A ferocious blizzard slammed into Future Island. The first thing to take the hit was the aerial power grid. The wind and tidal power plants were also badly damaged. Fortunately, the backup nuclear power plant in the underground bunker was still running fine. The first ones who couldn't hold out were the ordinary people, their resources nearly stripped bare by looters. Internal conflict grew worse. Tensions kept rising. Players with special abilities kept dying one after another. I sent number 128 a private message through the world window. How about we work together? I've buried a large amount of supplies in your territory. As long as you can retrieve it, you'll be able to survive. Before long, number 128 replied. What do you want? How can I trust you? I want you to face off against the zombie king. A team of scientists I put together has developed a zombie antidote. Just spray it on a zombie's body and it will make them disappear. But as you well know, my combat power is 0. After thinking it over, of all 30 ability users, you're the strongest. You're the only one who can pull this off. We humans fear extreme weather, zombies don't. The longer we wait, the better the zombies' odds get. Even though my supplies are plentiful, they'll run out eventually. If number 101 stays by the zombie king's side, he'll end up the final winner. The zombie king is too powerful. Without the zombie antidote, no ability user stands a chance of killing him. I have the antidote. You have the ability. Let's team up and take down the zombies. To earn number 128's trust, I sent a mercenary carrying the zombie antidote, along with a full batch of supplies. The gang used the antidote on a zombie. It screamed in agony and dissolved into a pool of blood. At the same time, the virus it carried was purified as well. Number 128 started to take real interest. If he and the zombie king were the only ones left in the world, the zombie king could kill him easily. To him, I was the weakest player around. Allying with me was without a doubt his best option. Sealed in blood. Hundreds of drones flew over the zombie horde, carrying antidote. The zombie king had been sleeping soundly, but with his sharp hearing, he immediately sensed something was wrong. He got up out of bed at once, though he didn't forget to pull the blanket back over first. A great deal of antidote mixed with the falling snow and drifted down in a heavy shower. The zombies hit by the antidote screamed in pain, all dissolving into blood. The zombie king, enraged, leapt down. Beams of light shot from his palms, destroying the drones. Number 128 charged forward with the other players. He used his gravity ability, slamming the Zombie King down onto the ground. Even as powerful as he was, the Zombie King couldn't so much as lift his wrist. Several players charged toward him. The Zombie King let out a piercing screech from his throat, and the zombies hidden in the shadows leapt at the players like monkeys. Number 128 unleashed his ability again. A tall building collapsed under the pull of gravity, and massive chunks of rubble rained down on the zombies, including the Zombie King, who was buried under a huge boulder. Number 128 flashed a victorious smile. Those boulders were more than enough to smash the Zombie King to pieces. Liu Ruan stood on a balcony, covering her face, letting out an anguished scream. Number 128 flicked his finger, and the terrace beneath Liu Ruan's feet collapsed. She fell from a great height, a fall that height would surely kill her. In that critical instant, the Zombie King leapt out from the pile of rubble and caught her. At the same moment, one of his hands shot out a spray of fine threads. Finding number 128. Number 128 was stunned. He had no idea the Zombie King had this trick up his sleeve. The Zombie King gave a gentle tug, and number 128's body was instantly torn apart. But what the Zombie King hadn't accounted for was that number 128 had a large stash of antidote on him. The packets of antidote released their scent, spreading all around him. Liu Ruan screamed in terror as she watched the Zombie King melt into a pool of blood. She was so frightened she lost all reason. This place truly felt like hell on earth. She ran as fast as she could to get away, but soon fell straight into an ice pit. This time, there would be no one to save her. A power that depended on other people's love really was far too fragile. On the world's public screen, 12 more players had died. I crossed off their numbers one by one in my notebook. When I reached number 128, I wrote his weakness beside his name. Gravity couldn't control anything extremely light, like the Zombie King's spider-thin threads. I liked exploiting information gaps to fight without ever losing. By this point, I had only one opponent left, Wang Teng, who commanded the military. He was impatient to bring this game to an end. He shouted at me over the world's public screen. "Mark, you've made it impressively far, but every game has its losers. Just kill yourself now, I won't torture you any further. I already know you've got mercenaries, but they're nothing compared to a real military. All you have is dirty money, but I've got missiles, an aircraft carrier, military planes. You can hide to the ends of the earth and I'll still find you." I raised my middle finger on the public screen. As powerful as Wang Teng's mind control was, it had one fatal flaw. He had to use his ability directly on his target. All I had to do was stay hidden inside the underground bunker, and he'd never be able to use his power on me. But I hadn't expected he'd simply launch missiles straight at Future Island. Several missiles rained down on the island. After a long while, I still hadn't gone offline. Wang Teng couldn't quite believe it. "Mark, your defenses are pretty solid too. Fine, I'll come get you out myself." He piloted the aircraft carrier in closer. An aircraft carrier, those reef defenses of mine meant nothing. When he landed on Future Island, the whole island was covered in smoke, its mountains reduced to rubble, the ground blasted into deep craters. All the surface defenses had been completely destroyed. He spotted the visible entrance to the underground bunker and flashed a smile, certain of his victory. He sent men to bombard the door with heavy weapons and ammunition. After several rounds of intense bombardment, the door blew apart, revealing the tunnel inside. I immediately sent him a video call request. He accepted it eagerly. Looking into the dark tunnel, he said, "Mark, it's too late to beg for mercy now." He gestured for his men to head into the tunnel, planning to drag me out from the inside. In the video, I calmly pointed to the vast expanse of space behind me. "Who told you I was on Future Island? Open your eyes wide and take a good look at where I actually am." The moment I finished speaking, a nuclear bomb detonated, erasing player number 100 from Future Island, reduced instantly to ash. The system rang out with a triumphant fanfare. "Congratulations to player number 99, the sole winner, you have successfully cleared the game." Beneath Wang Teng had been a player with a very peculiar ability. The power to determine the exact location and coordinates where a photo was taken just by looking at it, an ability that seemed almost entirely useless. But Wang Teng quickly realized how he could exploit it. He had repeatedly sent me video call requests, hoping to pin down my location through a screenshot. I had always refused. Then, on New Year's Eve, I sent him a photo. In his mind, he cursed me for a fool, happily using it to pinpoint my location, waiting for the gang and the Zombie King to be wiped out so he could swoop in and reap the rewards, deciding to blow me up. But how could I not know exactly which players were under his command? I had leaked that photo to him on purpose, simply to lure him to Future Island. After sending the photo, I had already left Future Island. The reward the system gave me was the ability to teleport instantly. I brought my belongings with me, and just like that, I was easily transported to a space station. But the system gave me no way back down to Earth. I wouldn't be able to use this reward until the very end.